This is update for October 29, 2022, day 248 of the war and of the date update. As always, we're going to discuss a little bit general strategic uh, topics, and then we're going to switch to the front line. So the first news, and I would say the most important, is that Russia is formally withdrawing from the agreement to allow export of Ukrainian grain. I was mentioning this before a couple times. It was looking more and more that Russia is not interested in continuing this agreement. So the importance for Ukraine of this agreement, it's basically destroying last remaining engine, economic engine that's bringing in foreign currency into country and creating some value add and creating basically opportunity to earn profit in Ukraine in farming, because with the stoppage of this agreement, there's essentially no profitable way of exporting Ukrainian grain. So essentially, all of the agriculture is becoming close to unprofitable. And what the next step is that a lot of farmers may not plant the crops. The winter crops probably already were planted at this point, um, and even though many people probably have not, because if you really think, most farmers aware that this agreement, it was temporary, right? It was supposed to expire early November, and there was no clarity of whether it's going to be renewed or not. So if you are rational and you're thinking about, you know, uh, surviving over the long run, it's probably most rational move is not to invest money, because that's what happens is farmers buying seed, fertilizer, fuel, and so on, basically, in investing money, right? So you invest in working capital, and then you harvest, and you basically get more than invested working capital. Um, so it looks like there is big chance that Ukraine is going to be out in terms of planting crops. We'll see what happens, but it doesn't look good. So for Ukraine, there is essentially nothing really left in Ukraine that is profitable and where there is economic opportunity essentially at this point in Ukraine. So it's becoming, I would say, close to 100% dependent on the Western financial help going forward. And this also, from a perspective sort of the world, obviously it removes fairly sizable supplier of grains, all sorts of grain. Obviously, the most important, wheat. Um, so the prices are bound to go higher, as you can imagine, because of that. In addition, Russia has really good really good crop, but it looks like it's not going to be, it's going to be stuck in Russia, and it won't be able to export it due to sanctions. So that's also removing another. And Russia is even bigger supplier of grains than Ukraine. So two two major suppliers are essentially gone from international market, uh, with one where the economic incentive are completely stacked against planting. So even like next year, even things change 100%. Sorry, 180-degree, and there won't be simply anything to export. Russia is going through something similar, but it's not as sort of pervasive, not as damaging situation there. But pretty sure there is negative sort of effects in Russia similar to Ukraine, just not to the level of Ukraine, basically. So this is the most important news. We'll see how on Monday how the market reacts, and I'm talking more about agricultural markets. So it'll be interesting to see how they react. This then next one is the Russian general who was in charge of the group of troops called Central Group of Troops. That's essentially, this now we call it North Luhansk and probably also this North Donbass. He essentially quit. There were probably some questions. Okay, is it important? He was not anything great. So from perspective of this is just a change, right? I would say if it, sorry, and now I'll sort of uh, go back and kind of address it from different angle. Is this good for Russia or not good for Russia? For the Russian side, it is, generally speaking, it's unclear, first of all, because it's unclear who's going to come. But generally speaking, it's good because what's happening in Russian military system is, people who are not capable, they're getting sort of removed, right? So it's net positive for the Russian side. They may not put new capable person, but something similar will happen to that person pretty soon. And eventually, by just like picking people, eventually you'll get someone who is capable. So what this really means is Russia one step closer to getting someone who is capable eventually, right? So that's the situation. And generally speaking, the problems in Russian military are so pervasive. So it's not even, it's to extend, it's not even possible to blame this person. It just it's a broken Soviet system. Like that's probably the good way to describe it. And and you really need repair it from top down, really at high level. And obviously, the Russian Minister of Defense is not changing. But as I said, it's net positive. It's not going to change anything immediately. Nothing noticeable will sort of happen there. Then there is another news. Ukraine is receiving T-55 from Slovenia. They are modernized, but I would say this is criminal, plainly criminal, because this tank is so inadequate for the current conditions on the battlefield. That's almost like Ukraine can get T-34 and put T-34 on the battlefield. This is the similar insanity. It's just the only word is insanity, and hopefully those people, those crews who will be offered this equipment will just say no, because they just otherwise they just kamikaze, just signing off their life just for one attack that will not be guaranteed not to be successful. So this is unfortunately, while Ukraine receiving decent amount of good military equipment, it's also receiving some horrific military junk, unfortunately. Hopefully it won't happen again, and hopefully what Ukraine got is not going to be used, because as I said, it's criminal from Ukrainian command, from Ukrainian government, Ukrainian leadership to accept such a gift and sort of ticket to hell, basically, directly. So that's all in terms of general news for today. Now let's walk. By the way, I actually reviewed that T-55. It's the first news surface, I think, sometime in July. So if you want to kind of quick, if you're really interested in that topic, then you can kind of look at it. But I don't have words. Let's put it this way. Now let's walk through the front line. Sorry, before we jump on the energy situation in Ukraine, remains pretty bad. with essentially no hope in sight. Because, as I said, the government is completely incapable of anything, and so it looks like the system will disintegrate, and especially, and sorry, I didn't want to discuss this attack on the Russian fleet in Sebastopol, but I think retaliation for that attack is going to be another round of attacks against Ukrainian energy infrastructure and specific energy distribution, because that's where the Russian side is hitting and very successful. So that probably will put like sort of final nail in the coffin of Ukrainian energy system. So we'll see what happens in the next couple days. Also, there are reports that Russia is getting missiles from Iran. So they are probably also like much cheaper. So basically, Russia is running low on sort of the sort of homemade missiles, and they are very expensive. So then now it's getting cheaper alternatives from Iran. So they're gonna probably start shooting those. Some people say starting November. So we'll see. That's obviously another negative that Ukraine has no answer against. So it looks like this whole situation with energy is gonna go sort of worst case scenario type of situation, unfortunately. Now let's finally jump to the frontline situation, and we're gonna do it in a clockwise fashion, starting from the very north. So along the state border, situation is relatively quiet, with some Ukrainian retaliation attack against the transformer station, substation, somewhere in Kursk region, which didn't do much. For obvious reasons, I explained this many times, that it's essentially like you trying to hit elephant with a needle, because Russian energy distribution system is vast, capable, and power generation is even better. So no results there. Now let's jump to the north Luhansk front line. Things here are more or less stable, with the exception of Ukrainian troops again tried to attack straight east towards Crimea without much results. So, as discussed, these Russian units are being refilled, and as they are getting more soldiers, they are becoming more obviously battle capable. It's a very logical conclusion. I don't think I open anything new to anyone. But situation is more or less stable. No major changes. Ukrainian command is still trying to achieve something here, but the opportunity is probably lost at this point. Now let's move to North Donbass front line here. Things here are actually were relatively quiet for whatever reason, not very clear. Maybe Russian side is regrouping, or something else is going on, but the Wagner mercenaries were not as active today. So it was kind of like a break day. Now let's move to central Donbass front line. So here there was only attacks out of this Pisky salient and a little bit sort of north of Avdiivka. There are some successes by Russian troops where they essentially got into a village called Vodine. I'll show you next time. It's still kind of like not much of a gain, generally speaking, but from a strategic perspective. But from a tactical perspective, this village is kind of like up north, sort of in the kind of like north of this, basically where I'm showing. And the problem with all of this is that, from a tactical perspective, is they enlarging this call it bridgehead, or this launching pad in width, right? So it's becoming wider, which creates more opportunities down the road. And it really also tells us that Ukrainian defensive line there is essentially cracked. and could crumble, like forcing withdrawal. And also, this is not immediate threat, but it's in the long run. If this continues, it's puts threat on Ukraine's ability to control Avdiivka eventually. So the situation definitely not going in the right direction for Ukrainian side here. It's not sort of like imminent threat. It's not going to happen in a month, but you know, giving enough time, I don't know, 2 months or 3 months, we might be seeing that Avdiivka is going to be in difficult situation. But this was a sort of first clear sign that things are in the wrong, moving pretty much in the wrong direction. And the Ukrainian side here is not capable of successfully counterattacking. There were several counterattacks by Ukrainian side. They were all repelled with pretty bad losses for Ukrainian side over past 2 or 3 weeks. Now let's move to Zaporizhya front line. Things here, well, actually not quite. The Russian side is reporting that they launched large offensive with the idea of capturing Vuhledar and essentially kind of like, let me just go back here, so probably better here. So you see, like, this is kind of like a corner, well, with Novomikhailivka being another corner. So they want to just cut through this, and maybe that's another idea of this pincer or whatever, just kind of basically testing Ukrainian defenses here. But the point is, there was a large attack, and so far it doesn't look like it went anywhere. But we'll see. We'll hear more information tomorrow, basically, on this. Otherwise, this Zaporizhia front line is quiet. Now let's finish with Kherson bridgehead. Uh, Attack-wise or counter-attack-wise, it was quiet, but Ukrainian side did hit, I think, pontoon bridges a couple times. So the attacks was HIMARS system, obviously, systems. So as you can see, the focus right now again on basically disrupting supply of Russian troops on the bridgehead. So again, as I said, this bridgehead is doomed in the long run. Just a question of time before it's going to get lost by the Russian side. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.